We have begun to see effects on the Naira as President Bola Tinubu says he plans for a single exchange rate in the country. And today the CBN gives directives for deposit money banks to remove the rate cap on the Naira at investors and exporters window of the foreign exchange market. And the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, says the support given to APC-backed candidates for the National Assembly leadership is nothing political but done in national interest. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloe in Abuja. The former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, says the election of Senator Godswill Akpabio from the South-South region of the country as the president of the Senate is a clear testimony that Nigerians are interested in the unity of the country. Mr. Wike says by the result, President Bola Tinubu has equally proven that it will not allow the country to be polarized. He also says that all the G5 members, which he's a member of, supported the emergence of Senator Godswill Akpabio and Tajuddin Abbas as the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Reps. He says his interest was not about politics, but the nation. Therefore, his party, the PDP, cannot query his stance. Take a listen to him.
Akpabio is an orator who can represent this country anywhere tomorrow. You cannot take away that from him. You cannot. So, any person who means well for Nigeria, and okay, take for first product, the one is outside. We have never produced it. Never. Only after this, we have done the 79. We have never produced it in terms of the House of Representatives. They came here. I never hear the people who had it. We said, look, Tajuddin Abbas, we will support you. We are not going to support you by talking. We are supporting you with the votes. We will mobilize. Mr. President has told me and has told G5 people that, look, that he's going to support Tajuddin Abbas. And we say, look, Mr. President, where you are is where I will support you. You may ask me, I'm a PDP man. I'll say yes. I'm talking about Nigeria.
Former Governor of Rivers said in some weekend. Tonight, we'll be getting some more insight. There are those hands behind the scene who played a lot of role in making sure that Tajuddin Abbas, the Speaker, emerged and Godswill Akpabio, as a Senate President, emerged. Those whom President Bola Tinubu had saddled the responsibility. The chair of that technical committee joins me tonight is the governor of Imo State. Stay with me, everyone. But first and foremost, we check out your political roundup stories.
The Senate today held its first plenary session for the first time after its inauguration yesterday. Shortly after the lawmakers settled in, the plenary went into a closed-door session and later reconvened. Speaking after the closed-door session, the president of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, told journalists that the executive session was centered on urgent national issues. Former House Speaker Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila has resigned from the House to take up the role as the Chief of Staff to the President. Honorable Gbajabiamila's letter of resignation was presented on the floor of the House and read by the Speaker. He resigned after raising a motion of urgent importance on impending flood disasters. A group of Ondo State indigents from the oil-producing communities of Ilaje and Eshe-Odo Federal Constituency are appealing to President Bola Tinubu to expedite action on the commencement and realization of the Ondo Deep Sea Port, which was approved by the immediate past President Muhammadu Buhari, so as to boost the economic fortunes of the coastal communities in the state. At a forum in Igbekabo community, Eshe-Odo local government, the leader of the group, Mr. Benson Oreton, said the benefits of the project will further boost the revenue of the state and provide job opportunities for the teeming youth in the state. The Kaduna State Governor, Senator Uba Sani, has congratulated members of the state's 10th Assembly on their election and inauguration. Senator Sani received the new Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Mr. Yusuf Liman, and other members on a courtesy visit to the government house. The governor urged lawmakers to put their personal and political differences aside and work closely with the executive for the overall interest and development of Kaduna State. The Ogun State Governorship Election Petition Court sitting in Abeokuta, the state capital, has fixed the 19th of this month to rule on the application of vote buying brought against the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Ladi Adebutu. The court, headed by Justice Hamidu Kunaza, said this during a sitting on Tuesday in Isabo, Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. Arguing in court, Godi Uche, counsel to the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party candidate in the 18th March election, Ladi Adebutu, accused the APC of corrupt practices. He also added that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, had wrongly declared the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress and the incumbent governor of the state, Dapo Abiodun, as the winner of the governorship election. Upon this accusation, the counsel to Governor Dapo Abiodun, Professor Taiwo Oshipito, in his reply, accused the PDP of vote buying, an electoral offense which the counsel said was in the family of corrupt practices.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's begin some kind of review of what happened yesterday. The emergence of Senator Godswill Akpabio as the Senate President and Mr. Tajuddin Abbas as the Speaker of the House of Reps. It's come with a lot of reactions, and people are trying to wrap their heads around what really happened and how it happened. Those on the camp of those who lost out in the race already figuring out how they lost in the race, and the APC are talking about the victory and what this means for the nation. There are obvious strong hands behind what we saw play out yesterday at the National Assembly. One of the persons who played a role, which he was saddled with, is the governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodinma, who was the chair of the technical committee set up by President Bola Tinubu. He joins us live here in Abuja. So thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Have you had some sleep?
Yeah,
I learned a lot of you were not sleeping. You kept vigil.
That is politics for you.
How did you do it?
How did I do what?
You were the chair of the technical committee set up to execute the APC's plan for the National Assembly leadership politics.
Well, first, you know, I'm the chairman Progressive Governors Forum. This Progressive Governors Forum is made up of governors of APC in the country. And of course, our loyalty to the party is very strong, and with commitment to ensure that the success of our great party remains sacrosanct. In that regard, we had a meeting and agreed, rising from the various information that came to us, that some members of the parliament, out of their own personal interests or reasons, were aggrieved and they were not comfortable with the choice of the political party, APC, in the person of Godswill Akpabio for Senate President and Senator Barau as the deputy, and Tajuddin Abbas, the Speaker, Ben Kalu as the deputy. So we came in actually to be able to reconcile in various interests, to make sure that the interests of the party will remain supreme. So in that regard, we consulted, visited different individuals, senators-elect and House of Representative members-elect, spoke to many. Throughout the night, some nocturnal activities to ensure that various individuals and critical stakeholders were carried along.
We even heard that the president himself had to visit some individuals. That's how important it is, isn't it?
Because the president is a member of the party, APC. Well, once the party is interested, we are all loyal to the party, including Mr. President. He's also loyal to the party. Once the party has taken a position, it is bound on all members of the party to follow. And that was exactly what we did. Engagement, talking to individuals, members and leaders of our great party, and even beyond the political party. We spoke to critical stakeholders to be able to have a reconciliatory move that will usher political stability in the parliament. In that regard, to support the government of our president, who, of course, you know, has started very, very well.
You're working closely with President Tinubu, especially executing what some of us have described as perhaps what would have emerged as his biggest political hurdle since assuming office as the president of Nigeria. Now, what do you see of him? What do you make of him? A lot of people have talked about his political sagacity. what kind of man is he when it comes to achieving or wanting to achieve what he set out politically?
You know, generally they always say experience is the best teacher. I think the president has paid his dues. Coming from the private sector, he rose to the management level of one of the biggest multinational companies in the country, ExxonMobil. From there, he was part of those who struggled for democracy to come to Nigeria. And again, he became the governor of Lagos State, today that has the strongest economy in the country. So he's a man of ideas. He has done very well. And don't forget, coming from the private sector to play politics gives you an advantage. So he understands what the market is all about. He understands the experiences and problems of the private sector and that of the public sector. So combining all the combinables, he's in the right position to really provide a solution. For instance, some decisions that may seem too hard for any leadership to take, he must have a way of going about it. He knows those to speak to, those to consult. And he has colleagues, has classmates, has political colleagues, he has business partners. He has seen it all. And of course, now there will be no choice but to ensure.
They say that he's the kind of person that whatever he wants to get, he knows just how to get it.
That is experience for you. That is pragmatism for you. And that is why I am pleading with all and sundry to allow him the space to show what he's made up of.
We'll get to that in a moment. But if you look at what happened, you're an experienced lawmaker. You've been in the National Assembly, now being a governor, and the kind of stiff opposition that came up, the likes of Senator Yari and those who followed him. Senator Yari had well over 40 votes. He had 46 votes. That was impressive for someone who has not been in the National Assembly before. It's his first time of being in the Senate. And as a first-timer, he was going to almost deal your party a huge blow. Your party's candidate, Godswill Akpabio. It shows that there is some division also in your party. What lesson has your party learned, if any, from that?
John, history has a way of repeating itself. In 2007, a contest for who becomes the Senate President of the country between the then Senator David Mark and the then Senator Akume, George Akume, was also very stiff. The gap between the votes of Senator Akume and David Mark is even less and closer than the gap of Yari and Godswill Akpabio. But in the same manner, it doesn't make the difference. This is the politics of the parliament. We will first disagree, and now finally we will agree. So those out of personal interest, partisan interest, will initially disagree. But when you lobby, when you convince them, when you speak logic to it, they will eventually agree. The most important thing is that it's democracy at play.
But Senator Uzodinma, if you look at some of the issues the likes of Senator Yari had put forward to say, in the scheme of things, there is no balance in terms of the politicking and the balance of power at that level. Did you see reason in some of their arguments?
Well, that argument really was not, I was not confronted with it. But what is important is that to be a Senate President, you must be a pan-Nigerian. We are looking for a Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not Senate President of a particular zone.
Is that what Godswill Akpabio is?
Nigeria is a federation.
Is that what Godswill Akpabio
is? Yes,
is?
it is. Godswill Akpabio is Senate President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's not the Senate President for South-South or for Southern Nigeria or any particular group. If you look at the spread of the votes, he even had a lot of votes from the northern part of the country, the same way from the south. So balancing and combining all the combinables, all the critical factors at play, you will agree with me that he was unanimously, in a very wide and substantial spread, elected with over 63 votes. You know, so Godswill Akpabio is a Senate President. I'm very confident that he will display maturity, will display and be interested in the unity of the country, will ensure, because Nigeria is a federation. It's Federal Republic of Nigeria. And Godswill Akpabio as senator, have you forgotten? As a governor in Akwa Ibom State for 8 years, he took the state from where he made the state to a higher level. As a senator, he did well. First time in the Senate, he was elected the minority leader of his party in the Senate. And he has done a lot. He has done well. And I think that he should be given a chance.
How will your party unite? There are forces that are divided. I mean, to see that there are those who stood against your party's decision, who dared your party's decision, went into the arena and said, let's go into it and we'll slug it out. Even the likes of Honorable Idris Wase, who had 3 votes, Honorable Jaji, who had 3 votes, they dared and said they would go with their integrity intact and they will still contest that election. Are you hoping, or what are you going to do to unite them? They're definitely aggrieved.
No, the beauty of democracy is that it allows people to express their interests and they also exercise their fundamental rights. Of course, as a senator-elect or House of Representative member-elect, you are entitled to contest for any position. But democracy also allows you to not to be too much, to aggrieve, allows you not to be with anger if you don't win. And if you win, you to take up the position. If you don't win, you follow the dictates of the rules of the House. So I'm not against anybody who expressed interest to want to lead the House or the Senate, but who did not win. And in terms of reconciliation in our great party, the party is a large party. APC today is the largest party in Africa.
By what measure?
By population, by performance, by everything, by consistency. This party since 2015 has been in power and has been able to, despite all the challenges and odds, despite the primitive type of opposition they met, they've been able to excel, and yet Nigeria is still united. And
I'll take you to the politics of the APC because first, let me start with Imo State. You are going to be, you are in the race. The INEC has released the names of those who will be in the race. You want to be re-elected. You came into some circumstances that a lot of your opposition are not quite happy with. The question is, why should the people of Imo State look in your direction again? Why are you seeking re-election? What have you done to convince them that you are deserving of that role again?
I'm sure political observers like you will agree with me that given the situation in Imo State before 2020 when I became the governor, and the situation in Imo State today, 2023, 3 years after, that a lot of things are there for people to now know that there is a huge difference. When I came to Imo State, I met a moribund state, a state that was in distress, a state I can even say that was in the cemetery. I exhumed the body. Can you imagine a state that I came as a governor and everybody absconded? No handover note. There was no compass for me to navigate the aircraft. I started harvesting information from official and unofficial quarters. Was able to establish a nominal role. Was able to re-establish the civil service, create the payroll, begin to rehabilitate all the dilapidated infrastructure. The infrastructural deficit was so huge. All the roads were not motorable. All the hospitals were not working. I started from Olu to Owerri. It would take you almost 4 hours. Today, you can go from Olu to Owerri in less than 30 minutes. From Okigwe to Owerri, you will spend even 5 hours at a point called a Kemele. Today, in 35 minutes, Okigwe, you are in Owerri. Now, I'm also doing the access from Mbise, Owerri to Umuahia. Was a journey of almost 6 hours. Even with the work we have done so far, nearing almost 70% complete, you will do Umuahia to Owerri in less than 40 minutes. And some other roads in the hinterland, rural roads, urban roads, I mean, over 100 roads has been restored, and the people are jubilant. The school system is running, the Medicare is running. There are so many things to show, both the tangibles and the intangibles. So it is not about what to show. It is that people have already seen what I have done. And they cry, the request there for me to continue.
Is that your best?
Of course.
Is that your best that you can give to the people of Imo?
More comment. It's still work in progress. It's still work in progress.
So you are begging for another 4 years to do what exactly?
Well, if I am there in the next 4 years, given what I have achieved in the last 3.5 years, if I continue the situation, the insecurity that besieged the state during my time, a politically contrived insecurity, was so enormous, capable of overwhelming the state. But we were able to resist it. And with the support of Almighty God and the president of the country then, President Muhammad Buhari, we got the support of the security agencies and rescued the state from total collapse. And today, if you go to Imo State, even on the street, the opinion poll, the last I got is that we want hope. We want hope. That is
what the masses... but it might not be Hope Uzodinma.
There is only one hope. Hope Uzodinma is the man who brought hope to Imo State from 2020 till now.
Well, I mean, you've seen the kind of opposition coming in this election. The Labour Party, the PDP, a former senator, that's a former party member in the PDP. You've seen what the Labour Party, in fact, the Labour Party now has a deputy governorship candidate that is also a former governorship candidate, a former member of the House of Reps. You've seen the YPP candidate. It's an opposition that is almost like a tsunami, hoping to sweep the APC away. Are you aware? Are you worried about that?
Why it is an election is because there must be opposition, and it must be a context. So why am I worried that I'm going into an election which is a context? Do you want me to go into a context without the opposition party? Then who will I be contesting the election with?
I'm just because you have hopes that you might get re-elected. And I'm trying to tell you that are you aware of the kind of competition that you are up against?
Well, I'm very confident that I have done well to be given another opportunity to do my second term. And by the grace of God, I think I will be successful. I am not God. It is only God that knows what will happen the next minute. But I'll submit myself to Imo people for re-election.
Let me quickly take you to the Imo Charter of Equity that was presented by the leaders of the state. I mean, your critics have said that the Imo Charter of Equity has been skewed in your favor.
I don't know what they mean by that, but when I came in, recall the event that happened where the police headquarters was attacked and the correctional center facility in Owerri was also attacked. I received in audience all the Christian bishops from various churches in Imo State who offered to intervene to find out actually the remote cost of all this violence in the state. Allowed them, at the end of the sitting, they consulted with all the politicians, strong politicians and critical stakeholders. And they came back to me with a report. Among the reports, one of the reasons given for the instability and violence in Imo State was that some politicians were aggrieved that my senatorial district or low zone have continued to keep power using our population, because the Imo State is made up of 27 local governments. The senatorial district where I come from, where I represented for 8 years, is made up of 12 local governments. The Okigwe is other senatorial districts, 6 local governments. Owerri, 9 local governments. So it goes without saying, since politics is a game of number, that always our own senatorial district will always win any contest, given their number. So one of the grievances expressed to the committee of the clergy is that Olu has monopolized power. That is, from 1999, Udenwa was the governor. After Udenwa, Okorocha became the governor. 16 years, and now Hope Uzodinma is the governor. It means that if they don't cause trouble, the power will not go to them. So in their wisdom, working with the Elders Council of Imo State, I think that it will be better to do an all-inclusive arrangement where the position of governor will go around the 3 senatorial districts. So they entered into an understanding that it requires power after my tenure. Of course, you know, I'm the incumbent governor, and I don't know if what they call advantage is that I will serve a second term before moving power to the next senatorial district. If we have an open contest, the question is, will they defeat me and defeat my zone with 12 local governments? So even I think they should applaud it, that at the end of the day, I have agreed that 4 years after my second term...
The feeling is that you have skewed it, that you have a hand in how this all played out.
If there's anything called skew, I would have discouraged the idea of having a charter of equity and strengthen my zone to rule forever. But look at it that way.
But it's in your favor now.
It's in my favor because I'm incumbent. I'm already incumbent. I'm a sitting governor. The question is, if there's no charter of equity and I've finished my tenure and I'm not able to support the other zone and plead with my people to allow the other zone to produce a governor, confrontation, are they going to get it?
Senator Uzodinma, let me ask you, since you became governor over 3 years now, how much of economy benefit have you been able to attract to the state? You said that the state was almost like a dead body that you exhumed. But from that dead body, from the resources that are available, what have you been able to make of it?
When I came in 2020, I have an entirely generated revenue profile of less than 300 million. That's how bad it was. As I speak to you, we're making 2.1, 2.2 billion on a monthly basis, entirely generated revenue, to augment our federal allocation. You recall that for the past...
As an oil-producing state, of course.
For the last 3 years, oil-producing, NNPC has not been contributing to FAC. All the processes of oil revenue have been used to subsidize fuel import. So
you are happy with the removal of subsidy because after this, NNPC has said that the federal government has not been paying its obligation in terms of the subsidy payment. But with this, there should be fund for the NNPC to be able to do its duties, and the federation should have more money.
Yes,
what do you make of it?
That is the best thing that has happened to the country. Because what are we talking about? We almost got to a stage that it was a mono economy. It's oil. And being the only thing people we depended on to run the country, the money disappeared, used to subsidize import. No, and at the end of the day, we are a member of the Committee of Nations. Is there anywhere in the world, among the oil-producing countries, that importation is the order of the day? If we must look like other members of OPEC, is there any serious OPEC member at the same category with Nigeria that is importing products? The answer is no. 2, ExxonMobil, Shell Petroleum, Gulf, Ajib, all the oil companies that are producing crude oil in Nigeria are the same companies that are producing oil in America, in Britain, in Venezuela. Is there anywhere in these countries that products are being imported? Is there anywhere in these countries that these oil companies don't have fuel stations where motorists go and get fuel? Why is our own different? Can you remember of any country that you have language like independent marketer, turnaround maintenance, fuel import, subsidy regime?
So there's a big anomaly.
That is why my respect for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu doubled.
But the question is, how will he be able to manage it? The outcome, the backlash of the remover, those who criticize that it was somewhat a knee-jerk approach. Was he really ready? How are Nigerians going to... 159% increase in the price of the commodity will also affect inflation rate, will affect the price of commodity in the market. Are we ready for it? Do we have alternatives? These are the questions.
If we want to respect God and respect nature, we must allow the forces of demand and supply and market forces to determine the cost of living.
Oh, the land, the preparation to absorb the shock was not properly put in place. These are some of those.
Listen, it is not the procedure, because the so-called subsidy that you claim that is going to the people, I don't know the people who are beneficiaries of this subsidy. On the other hand, what subsidy are you talking about when we don't have roads, we don't have hospitals, we don't have schools, we have the highest migration of medical purpose out of this country? So we leave our priorities because we have no national development plan. A visionary leader must develop a national development plan so that the priorities of the country will be established. Our policies must be done inclusively. It must be collectively defined, collectively designed, and collectively implemented.
Governor,
so critical stakeholders must queue into every good policy.
In your own state, what have you done for your people to buffer the shocks of this subsidy removal?
As a matter of fact, before even the removal of subsidy, I had an audience, the leadership of Nigerian road transport workers. And in that meeting, they praised and applauded the road revolution I have done. That the travel time has grossly reduced from one point of the state to another point. And as a result, that they have reduced the cost of transportation. That is palliative working. Palliative cannot be sitting down and distributing rice and beans.
So you don't agree with the 5,000?
They are making our people look like beggars.
You don't agree with the 5,000 naira?
I don't think, without prejudice to what will be the position of federal government, but I don't think that the palliative is dashing 5,000 to our citizens. What is the palliative? It's making available critical infrastructure that will make life more meaningful to our people. We want motorable roads. We want good hospitals. We want good education. If we can afford it, we want to review our wage bill. And
what would be your suggestion to the minimum wage? What figure would you suggest that it should go, the federal minimum wage?
Well, I don't want to preempt the federal government. I think there is an assignment. Some people are already working on it. Whatever that is, because one thing is to make a promise.
What figure do you think? You are a state governor, and you know what your people feel.
I have dealt with labor severally since I came as a governor. And I would prefer not to make a promise that I will not keep.
Oh, I mean, I'm just asking for your own view about what figure do you think could work for Nigeria workers as a minimum pay?
There are peculiarities. The cost of living in one state is different from the cost of living in another state. And we have federal civil servants and we have state civil servants. At the subnational level, your income earning capacity and what is affordable to determine how much you should use as a minimum wage.
What are you considering? Are you considering reviewing yours in your state?
Yeah, we have to look at it. Of course, I will be happy to do that. I will be happy to be known as the governor who is paying the highest wage bill in the country to encourage my workers. But it must be affordable.
All right.
It must be realistic.
Governor Uzodimma, on a final note, over 20 houses have been submerged and several families have been displaced following the landslide, which is estimated to be about 30 feet in Umuchima community in Idiato South local government area of the state. What are you doing to, first and foremost, these families, this community affected, to help them, one? Two, are there plans to forestall this kind of situation to ensure that this kind of people are properly catered for so that their lives are not impacted with this kind of natural disaster?
And if you recall, in 2000, President Obasanjo visited Umuchima. The gully erosion stretched up to Anambra State. A bombshell. This is one of the effects of the climate change issue. So the ecological problems we have in that area, because the ecosystem have been altered very seriously by various constructions here and there, mining and all the rest of the thing. So the project is beyond the power of the state government.
Have you spoken to President Tinubu about this?
As a matter of fact, we should allow the president to settle down. I wrote to the former president, and he sent it to Ecological Fund Office. And they are working on it. They designed over 2 times now, federal delegation came from Ministry of Environment and the Office of the Secretary to the federal government. And they're working at various ways. But the capital outlay required to create a sustainable remedy is very huge. And there must be federal government intervention. Right. It's work in progress. We're also working out a palliative measure to cushion the effects of the impact of that incident.
Those displays
on the residents.
Well, can we get assurance that those displays...
As I speak to you, NEMA spoke with me a few hours ago, and they're still working out something to see what they can do to resettle those people that are displaced.
Our heart goes out to those who have been displaced and affected in that landslide. Thank you so much indeed, Senator Hope Uzodimma. It's good to see you again. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Shehu. Thank you.
You need some sleep.
I need it.
For those of you who have not had sleep for the last 3 days. Because we know that Senator Ali Ndume said here also was complaining about lack of sleep. That
yes, I really need to.
Some of you have.
You know, you insisted. But I said if I didn't come, you would not be happy. So I decided to come.
Thank you so much indeed for coming.
Thank you.
But that was a show for this half hour. But when we come back from the break, Daniel Bwala, spokesperson of the PDP 2019 Presidential Campaign Council, will be joining me. He's a lawyer. He's been appearing in court in the Presidential Tribunal. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome back to the conversation. I'm being joined by Mr. Daniel Bwala. We'll be taking a look at President Tinubu's presidency and state of the nation. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you for having me.
How's it been? You've been in court. I mean, I saw you the other day at the Presidential Tribunal.
Yeah.
How's that going?
So far, so good. Everything is going fine. The trial proceedings are going on seamlessly, and we are happy with the way we are adducing our case, and we look forward to the future.
Okay, I don't want to get into the meat of the matter because it's for the courts to, for the adumbration and all of the argument to be happening in the courtroom. And when that happens, we might discuss the outcome thereafter.
That's right.
I mean, President Tinubu's third week.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, he made some early moves that one could look at and feel a little bit excited. To say that his posture suggests that he wants good governance. However, there are so many things that you can puncture from that. For example, some of the acts of number 16, I call him, are not unifying in nature. Let me start with the Democracy Day speech. I saw that a lot of people took out the positives, but they didn't look at some of the deep things in that speech, which, of course, is a reflection of his official act since he assumed the seat. How in the world could you talk about democracy and the fight for democracy in Nigeria without mentioning Atiku Abubakar? Tinubu did not, the president did not mention Atiku Abubakar. And that, to me, is not reflective of the unity posture.
What did you expect exactly from him? What could he have said? What were you expecting?
He mentioned, because that day was a celebration of the life and the struggles of Abiola. You need to know that the person who stepped down for Abiola in the primaries was Atiku Abubakar. And the struggle continued. So I thought that he should be able to give that extended olive branch. Even Peter Obi, he ought to have mentioned Peter Obi, because Peter Obi, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, represented a move we've never had, the third force. We've never had a third force. There were efforts in the past. And coming at a time when the younger generation said they wanted a new thing, I felt that that was contributory or contributing to democratic ideals. He didn't say anything about the NSAS. The NSAS was a struggle of young people. These are acts and moves that entrench and strengthen democracy. Because what they were doing at the time was they were fighting to call, it was a civil disobedience aimed at calling the government to do what constitutionally they're empowered to do. He didn't do that. So to me, that is not right. And then secondly, if you look at some of the subliminal threats to the judiciary in that speech, to me, I feel it does not promote the integrity of democracy and the rule of law. When you are saying that orders that are tended to subvert democracy will not be tolerated. Order of court, bad or good, stays subsisting until it's overturned. Now, if you are saying that, how do you just suppose that with the many orders that Wike was getting to twist the party, meanwhile he was going about doing everything, what will be his posture or reaction to that kind of order? We look at that as a subliminal threat to the judiciary when you have a pending case before the judiciary. Then he talked about people who don't celebrate something are not entitled to praise. To me, that speech was not a reflection of a unified Nigeria. Now, the other thing is Section 14 of the Constitution. If you look at subsection 3, it talks about the government of the federation must be run in such a way that it will reflect the principles of federal character, so that there is no dominance of a section or a people of a group in the government. It is clear from the party that this is a religiously biased government. So he needed to do more to convince the Nigerian people.
How would you say so? What gives you the impression?
It started with the foundation, which is, of course, the ticket. If you look at the appointment made so far, you can see it evident. And there are more appointments. Probably by tomorrow, he will release the one for his essays, and then he will send the names of his cabinet members now that the National Assembly is constituted for confirmation. You would see that. So an all-inclusive government, if you look at Section 14, is fundamental to steer what they call national loyalty. Loyalty is patriotism. For you to be able to command the loyalty of the people, you must commit acts that will be tended towards.
Has he done anything wrong in terms of the appointment that he's made so far? He's just done quite a handful.
Yes, many more are coming. But what I'm saying is, when you know that fundamentally the constitution of your government is such that it is questioned as one that is religiously biased.
Why would you say it's religious? What are the evidence?
The evidence is the ticket, which I talked about. And you know, that time I was criticized, but when it came to the election for the post of the Senate president, the same set of people who were criticizing me for that same principle canvassed that, look, we need a religious balance, otherwise it will not protect the unity.
Can you elucidate more on where you picked holes on this religious imbalance that you're talking about?
My idea is that if you are going to, you see, it's not everything that is stated in the Constitution. The Constitution has a word and it has a spirit. The spirit of the Constitution reflects the words. That's why we are in court sometimes to get the interpretation of the code as regarding the intention of legislatures. If you look at the Constitution from one right to the end, and then you juxtapose that with convention, you will see that all of the times in Nigeria where we had good governance or we have a unified front were those times where the Constitution and the oppression of the government and the agencies were such that they reflected. But sometimes it's even hard to blame him, because he probably picked it from Buhari, because in Buhari's government, it was the same thing. It was a government that was characterized by nepotism. So now, because an order has been established, I am only hoping, because my idea of Tinubu as a person is not somebody that is a religiously biased person. But it doesn't take, he's not the only person that constitutes the government. And that's why there must be a conscious effort on his part to ensure that that is taken care of. Now, look at the fuel subsidy. Of course, all of us agree that fuel subsidy has to go. But we disagree as to the modalities of doing that. Because it's just like taxation. You cannot tax people until you tell them what are the deliverables of the proceeds of the taxes. Now, you came and said subsidy is gone, shook the market, and then plunged the Nigerian people into trouble without providing a broad-based approach to cushioning the effect. It is a transfer from the same party's government to another government. It was legislated. And then I also looked at some of the things that people look at. They say these are sparks of hope and revolution. He is doing great things. Let me tell you this, Mr. Sheun, and by extension, the Nigerian people. In the first 2 weeks of President Buhari's government in 2015, he did things that were considered more incredible than this one. There is a romance period when you come to power where everything goes in your favor. Buhari asked the service chief all to go to Maiduguri. Within a space of 2 to 3 months, they recovered 11 local governments. And because it is understandable, you don't have ministers, so you operate like an emperor. Let there be light, and there is light. The true test of whether you're doing it right or not is when you constitute the government, you have 38 to 40 problems, because the ministers are going to bring the problems of their ministry. And then the minister's problem, the ministry's problem, how you manage these people and how you run the government, then we begin to judge and say you're taking the right moves.
So this Bola Tinubu's honeymoon period in office, the third week,
right,
how would you describe it generally?
I think it's average.
It's not as fantastic as you thought.
No, it is not. Because, you see, I'm the type of person, maybe because of my discipline as a lawyer, who does not just get excited easily. We always, what we call it, reading or seeing between the lines or below the line, all right? When something new happens, it is like this glass of water and the cup, you put, what do you call this, Andrew liver salt. There are bubbles you see immediately. It is a bubbling period in his administration. People who haven't seen him in government before, now he has come. And because, you see, the previous government performed so poorly that anything you do in this government will be credited. I mean, what does it take for you to call the service chiefs and say that I don't want a lack of cooperation? If you do that, I'm going to take action. It's as simple as that, but it never happened in the past. So when he said it, it is considered as a breakthrough. The first official action, the first one, and the only one that I know so far, official action was the removal of subsidy, which to me, although subsidy has to go, but the modalities, procedure.
He signed the student loan bill into law. One of what he said in the campaigns that he thinks that people, indigent students, or those who want to go to school, who do not have the money or the wherewithal, should be able to get loan and payable when they get jobs.
There are two things there. Number one, the bill was not initiated in his administration, already prepared, awaiting signature. Buhari could have signed as well. So you don't take that credit for that. But most importantly, the bill itself and the content of the bill, you juxtapose that with the manifesto of the party. Where are they going to get the money to give the loans? The bankers are not going to give their own money. The government will have to, and there is no well-defined strategy for that loan in that manifesto. Let me even tell you.
But the act now, I mean, which is the law now,
right,
has provided that there will be a bank, there will be a board, which we have a former vice chancellor, the NUC, the minister, and all what have you. Then we will have the loan, and the bank can have his offices domiciled in the different states of the federation, and student can get access to these, the procedures for application and all of that. And I think it's an initial 1 billion naira deposit to that bank. These are some of the structures laid out in the act that I saw that was signed.
In 2015, there was Administration of Criminal Justice Act that was signed. How many years since then till today? How many people have been convicted? Having the act signed is not the issue, because there must be a money. The loan there is not to collect prayers. Is it not to collect money? So what they are likely going to do, and that's why when I look at the manifesto and look at realities on ground, there are only two areas where number 16 will get money to execute. Number one, he has to investigate, he has to probe the government he took over from. That was what Buhari did. When he took over in 2015, he probed that government and then recovered some money. He has to probe. So Nigerian people will look at whether or not he has the balls to do that. And then number two, they are going to expand the tax net. You are going to see in the coming days where Nigerian people are going to be made to pay more, because these are the only two areas I feel they can generate money to be able to commence the implementation of some of the things they have in their manifesto. And the idea that you remove fuel subsidy is not Uhuru. It is the administration of the money for the good of the people.
Today, there is an announcement coming from the CBN, reportedly that the CBN are told deposit money banks to freely float the naira against the dollar and other international currency. Some would say it's a gradual process in achieving Bola Tinubu's aim of singularizing the exchange.
Right.
How do you see that?
Again, this is also part of what we had in our manifesto, that we are going to remove this idea of this dual exchange rate, right? But we had what we call the procedure leading to that. So what he did today is fine, but it is like a brother, it's like a twin brother of the removal of fuel subsidy without providing the cushion. Has he engaged the stakeholders to know what exactly is the problem? And by that decision, what are the concomitant effects? The good thing is that we are hearing today that after the arrest of Semefele, that the market is beginning to, show some glimpse of light. And this, double rate that Emefele introduced in Nigeria was meant for corruption and not for the good. So the policy for a free market rate, free market to determine the rate is fine, but whether he has engaged the stakeholder to ensure that we do not have the negative effect is what I don't know. It seems it's more of act before you look at what the problem is.
Maybe when he has his team, a lot of people, now that he has gotten an approval to appoint 20 advisors in the immediate, maybe, and those who say, look, there are some critical appointments that will be very, very fundamental.
Right.
What are your views, especially on the economy and the security?
With respect to the security, intriguing enough, I have heard, I've seen, and in fact, there was a time I even put that on Twitter, that in constituting the security architecture, he's likely to appoint Nuhu Ribadu as the National Security Advisor. Now, I don't have anything against Nuhu Ribadu. He's a fine gentleman that I know. But Nuhu Ribadu is a politician. And I think there was a time I tweeted on my handle, and I said there are certain key roles like Central Bank, NSA, I mentioned them. You do not give it to somebody who has participated in politics, either has run for office or is involved and attached to a political party. National Security Advisor is one of those roles. You see, because your engagement in politics would have led in your meeting with people, and only God knows the commitment you have made to the people. And as a politician, what politicians do is they use their office as a weapon to do what either they have encountered, they have experienced, or they have felt. And that is not where you need a professional. You need somebody who has thorough background in intelligence, but somebody who has not indulged in politics. You don't have to go necessarily to the army. Because, of course, over the time, we have seen how, having the army as NSA hasn't helped matters. And I think majority of Nigerians are of the view that you don't go to the army. But neither should you go to somebody who is involved in politics. You see, I thought, and quite frankly, from the way I'm viewing number 16, he seemed like somebody who wants to do governance, right? But again, he's surrounded by people, and influences might lead him into taking certain decisions that will make him repeat what Buhari did. And it's a matter of time before you see that.
This might be like some kind of compensation.
Which is totally, you see, there are places you can compensate somebody and make a minister of works, minister of whatever. National Security Advisor, the entire architecture of security falls in your hand. You are the one every day that will break down security briefings to the president and tell him what the situation is on ground. When you put a politician, what do you expect him to do? First of all, he will hunt their political opponent. So that office will now be used as an engine room to prepare for another 2027 rather than using it as a platform to deal with insecurity in Nigeria.
So there are those who have been warning the president to say, look, be careful.
Yeah.
You've had a good start, seemingly. Don't dent it with the kind of, especially in the area of economy, when it needs to jumpstart and securing this country.
Right.
Because there's a response from the party to Amnesty International about the security situation in the country. An appointment in those areas would be one thing that a lot of people will keep their eyes on and say, okay, these are very critical. How impactful would those two areas that some people have highlighted, economy and NSA, be on President Tinubu's government?
That, in fact, is the lifeline and will either be his success or albatross. The economy and security. Now, with respect to the economy, central bank governor, you must not put a politician as a central bank governor. Minister of the economy, you must not put a politician as a minister of the economy. National Security Advisor, these are the life of that administration. Now, if you get bogged up by pressure from people within or without and make appointment of individuals into these offices who are not thoroughbred and are not professional, what will happen is, and one funny thing about Nigeria is that, like they say, we've seen the movie before. When Buhari started, those sparks, we saw it. When he said, I am for nobody, I am for everybody, I am for this. And when he began at the beginning, it was like that. Now, after 8 years, we have seen how either people around you will influence you negatively. Now, those who are proposing for people like Ribadu are saying that he has had his experience in anti-corruption and the international community. He linked up with them, international community. He does not have corruption charges. And all of that might be fantastic, but one thing is sure. The minute you go into politics, you are compromised, not in terms of corruption, but in terms of the freedom of the thought to do what you need to do without bias.
Mr. Daniel Boala, a lawyer, and he was the spokesperson to the PDP Presidential Campaign Council in the 2023 election. Thank you so much indeed for your thoughts and your time. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Bye-bye.